Hello and welcome to this very special event by Historic Environment Scotland. Today is World Storytelling Day and we are looking at reimagined Scottish folklore. My name is Mara Menges and I am a storyteller. But what exactly is storytelling? Well, many people have their own thoughts of what it might entail, but here in Scotland we have a lovely saying from the travelling community where a story is told eye to eye, heart to heart, mind to mind. And so in that spirit, we are going to be hearing a whole plethora of different kinds of storytellers with their own interpretations of different Scottish folklore. And first up, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Niall Mojani with his version of Thomas the Rhymer.
My name's Niall, and the story I have for you is a loose reimagining of the Thomas the Rhymer myth. It's a version which has a narrator that isn't necessarily Thomas, and a Thane instead of a fairy queen. But otherwise it follows pretty closely. I hope you enjoy it. The sun is rising over the Eildon Hills. You can't see her yet, but you know she's coming by the way the sky is stretched out a canvas colour range. A pink band is straddling the horizon blue, and purple is pushing darkness back into a retreat. The stars and moon going with it, their silvery goodness done for another evening. And then, golden bands kissing my cheeks warm. Pink, saffron, green. Daybreak over the Eildon Hills. What's somebody like me doing wandering around the hills at dawn, you may ask? And it'd be a fair question. I've just met a lassie. Oh, she's something special like. We would have been in a wee bit of trouble if her brother had caught us in the barn, so I slipped out and I'm not ready to go back to my lodgings yet. So I figured I'd just wander around the hills, greet the dawn. My name? I could tell yous, but there'd be no point. People call me what suits them. Harper, teller, rhymer. Oh, I like those ones. Arsehole, bampot. Get off the stage, mate, you're crap. I'm not such a fan of those. I can't stop thinking about this girl. Elspeth's her name, and I think I might love her. Oh, I know that sounds silly. It's only been one night, but she's so witty and smart, and she's rude too, like she could make a drunken mariner blush with her wit. And she's smart. Way smarter than me. No that it's hard, to be fair. Only, I can't stay. How can I? What? Me? With her sheep in the wains on the farm? Nah. You see, I'm a storyteller. I haven't exactly got any real skills. And then there's fame. I have been a moth to its flame now for so long, and only recently. Hasn't it hurt so much to touch? And if I leave now, it's a life's work gone. And I'm a right melon when it comes to decisions as well. I think it's 'cause I've never really known where I fit. You know, I'm too soft for some, too hard for others. Mostly too soft. Too stupid, too smart, too quick, too slow, and then there's my skin. Light brown, which is different from most of the folk around these parts. I didn't know if you've noticed, there aren't many folk with light brown skin around here. But people do always notice mine. Some mean it kindly like, "Oh, your skin," they'll be saying. "That's lovely. Where did you get skin like that?" As if I got it down some weird market for a few coins. And sometimes they aren't so nice. Either way, it reminds you that you don't really belong here. And it works with fame too, you know. Some courts, they only want to hear you because you may have some exotic tale to tell them. And then there's those that didn't want to hear you tell at all because, well, you look wrong. It started from childhood as well. It was as if there was a day when kids realised that I looked different to them. And you know what kids are like? As soon as they find difference, there's no stopping them. I know I've got to work out how to fit in. I've got to pick somehow. But my skin is all I've got and I can't change it. It goes pale in the winter and brown in the summer. And there's no doing anything about that. I'm feeling sleepy. So I sit myself down under the Eildon tree and slump for a nap. It is a delicious nap. The kind of nap you dream in and then dream of until your head hits the pillow again at the end of the day. That kind of a nap. Mwah! And I wake. And I've been asleep for some time because the sun is setting now, casting itself in great brushstrokes across the sky, staining pale blue with saffron and pink. It's dazzling. On a day like this, they are stunning, these hills. Like tall waves, they roll on a green sea crested by treetops. You see, people, they argue over whether east or west is best, but to my mind, the borders are nae bad like. And then, on the sunset sky appears a rider on a creature I can't make out. They're speeding toward me. And they must be being carried on the soft breeze which is caressing my body because soon they're right on top of me. Their steed is like a weird, giant, cat. It has stripes of black and white and orange crisscrossing all over its body. And it has teeth the size of daggers. And it's decorated with sparkling jewels, the like of which I've no seen before. And the rider, they're dressed in a emerald gossamer, which is cutting across their figure at very jaunty angles, and it's not an outfit I've seen very often. Or if ever, to be honest with you. They have hair, the colour of twilight, and it's fallen to their waist, and they have eyes that seem to be made of a forest at sunset, iridescent and unblinking. Their skin is a rich golden brown, and somehow is shimmering like the stars do. And I think, Boz, I've seen Mary. Oh Christ, what if I've seen Christ himself? Truth be told, it's kind of hard to tell. So I just fall to my knees and I start saying prayers that I haven't said. They're indistinct. I don't even know them. And the rider just laughs at me. And they speak with a voice smoother than silk. I am not of heaven. I am not Mary or Christ, woman or man. I am the Thane of Elfland. When you speak of me, which you will, they, them, and Thane will do just fine. Now, I have heard tales of your telling. Rise, good rhymer, and give me a story. I stand up. There's no need to question what makes perfect sense, and they're drawing close like. If you tell well, they're murmuring like the sea. I will reward you with something of your choosing. Now, I'm no what you would call knowledgeable, but they being of the fae folk, I know if I ask for money, it could turn to dry leaves in my hands. If I ask for fame, I'll never know a day's rest, and if I ask for a peaceful life, I'll know nothing of the sort. I think of Elspeth. I think of the things her brother said to me. There's a reason I couldn't stay. I think of a life here, and I didn't know how to make it work. And I'm a melon when it comes to making decisions. I ask for just one kiss. If you kiss my lips, your body will follow, and together we will away to Elfland. I look at their skin, darker than mine, and I think, maybe this is where I'm meant to go. I'm taking my kiss, and sure enough my body follows. And they're taking their lips and playing them over my chest, and I'm telling a tale I didn't even know, something about the moon and the stars and, well, the rest. What words describe what was passing between us? Sweetness, tenderness, fire, bliss, ecstasy, serenity, hope, joy. Always fail to describe something so beautiful. As they moved me, they did so with such brilliance that I felt as though I rippled with the very energy of the universe. And after, we're lying side by side. I'm covered in earth and sweat, and they are an image of perfection. No even a hair is daring to stray out of place. Well toned, they whisper. They take out a pipe, and it lights up all by itself, and the embers burn orange against the now twilight sky. They draw and breathe out a great plume of smoke. And it builds so much that I can hardly see the tree in front of me. In it, in the smoke, I can make out a figure, a rider on a big, weird, stripy cat in crisscrossing green. I look to my right, and the world is rushing by. I look to my left, and it's doing the same. They turn to me without even opening their mouth and say, "We are riding toward Elfland. Know that you chose well." I can only think I'm a melon when it comes to decisions. And that is the end of my story. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a lovely day.
What a wonderful start to this session. Thank you so much, Niall, for that wonderful interpretation. I'm now delighted to welcome Suna Khan, and she is going to be telling us her version of A Brownie Tale. Welcome, Suna.
Thanks, Mara. My name is Suna Khan, and I'm going to read you my poem, A Permanent Move to Foreignness. This poem was inspired by the myth of Scottish fairies, specifically household fairies that kind of lived up in the Highlands, sometimes known as brownies or broonies. And they were known for kind of helping out around the house and doing the odd jobs, but they were also hidden creatures, you never really saw them. And I think I was reflecting on that, and also my heritage as a Scottish Pakistani, and I was thinking about the first Pakistanis to arrive on the banks of the Clyde in Glasgow, and how they kind of arrived as hidden creatures and tried to figure out how to make a life here. And yes, I was thinking about that, and I was also reflecting on the word immigration and the fact that one of the definitions of the word immigrant or immigration is an idea of the permanent or a permanent move to foreignness. And I thought it was such a strange idea to forever not belong somewhere. So this is my reimagining of a Scottish myth with a multicultural twist. Our father, a foreign land, sorcerer in a black coat. We watched him sleep, watched him rise with the others, prise himself out of our sardine can suitcase. We were truly prisoners then, trapped in our tongues, extradited from the sun, no spells or safe words. Without him, our magic carpet was just a carpet. Our father, a desert tropic swamp, peripatetic rock. We became creatures of the shadows, hiding behind the bins, hiding while we learnt the names for things. The first words we learnt were good and morning. We could turn a Glasgow grey day just by calling it so. We curled the good around our tongues, sewed good into our seams, stuffed good into our pockets, our hands stripped fish bone cold. We wore coats on top of coats, socks over our sandals. They called us the abominables. Our mother, a singing bowl, her grief capsized. We washed once a week down the steamy, where they called us dirty brownies, our faces red from daily scrubbing. We took turns to sit in the bath, returned to our true forms then, little gods of the Indian Ocean. We lassoed the sun, a honeycomb sponge, lathered ourselves electric. We dreamt ourselves back to warm laps and wide beds, grew arms and octopus legs, crossed the Atlantic down the globe of our golden bellies, traced home past the equator of our belly button, a birth marked broken under a British flag. Our father, a moonbird, vertebrae possessed. Our shape-shifting father turned bus conductor, our father in the gutter emptying out the bins, our father reborn a storm, wholesale purveyor of secrets, stirring in the night to the poetry of Fiaz, our father's wet face, tired morning. Our father, a turbulent sea god, forever in his foreignness. Thank you.
Well, I don't think that we're ever going to look at brownies in the same way after that. Thank you, Sana. That was magnificent. I'm now delighted to welcome Kirsty Logan. And Kirsty is going to be telling us her version of the Gaelic tale of Beira, the goddess of winter. Welcome, Kirsty.
The Longest Night by Kirsty Logan. Chapter 1. All myths begin with the rise and fall of the sun. So let's start there, or just before. Sit by me now, the circle of us, a crown on the hilltop. The shiver of night air, cold as stars. Light still a promise behind the far rise. We'll sit together on this old island of ghosts at the edge of the world. We'll stay until we see that there is more than one layer to the sky. We'll wait for the light. You've been told to stay away from me, at least until the days start to turn at least until the air starts to warm. But I promise, my story ends with dawn. And it starts there too. Chapter 2. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Here is what they say about me. As the days get slow and short and cold, as summer becomes a memory, snow queen, winter goddess, protector of wild woodland beasts, veiled one, stormbringer, harvest sacrifice, witch, vixen, fishwife, shrew, harpy, hag. But what is a hag but a woman who is not quite what she's supposed to be? Not young, thin, pretty, soft, kind, bright, fertile, ready to open her arms for a man and embrace all that he is. But I have embraced men, over and over, many a man, and women too, and outlasted them all, outlived them all, outloved them all, and all, and all, until she. Chapter 3. She, spring goddess, flower queen made all of petals. She, my mirror, my opposite, the perfect shape to fill the gaps in me. Hair yellow as the sun, while mine is the white moon reflecting. Eyes blue as a man fresh dead of cold, while mine are the black of sleep. Body round and soft like fresh bread, while I am tall and thin as a winter tree. She, there, just beyond the distant hills, calling out for me, making my name out of light, calling me not as others call, for power, for storms, for mercy, but calling me for love. And I, a goddess who built mountains, literally built them. Did you know that? Those mountains you see, taller than your house, taller than any building a man ever made. I built them. Me and my hammer, I did that. And still I, at the sight of her, at the closeness of her, am humbled, am powerless, stricken, silent, sheer shambles, and I messed it up. Okay? I messed it up. For a long time it worked, and then it didn't. And it was me. I know it was me. My heart is white and ice, and it beats in fits. And her hands were warm and strong and melting, and I said it wasn't enough, even though it was everything. The air turned cold again. She took those hands away and never touched me again. Chapter 4. I made this loch for her to win her back. You see it? Peat black, days wide, deep enough to swallow a town, deep enough to hide a monster. And you know what? Perhaps I put one in there just for her. Wee beastie, secret tale, hiding down there in the depths, hoping she'd come back just to find it. If you like that story, here's another. You can buy a tea towel of me, or a keyring if you don't wash dishes, or a postcard if you don't have a home to open. They show me accidentally making the loch. Accidentally, not on purposely, not an act of incredible love and devotionly. And that is why you should not let someone else tell your story. You can make an entire loch for the love of a woman, and they'll say you didn't mean it. They'll say you can't have done it. They'll say you don't know your own ice-white, fast-beating heart full of the sound of her name. I know she loves monsters, so I made one for her. I thought she'd like water so dark no one could get to the depths of it. I hoped She'd like a place where even a huge white-haired hag with a magical hammer could live, if she wanted. If we wanted. Chapter 5. So let's start here. The circle of us, a crown on the hilltop. The shiver of night air, cold as stars. Light still a promise behind the far rise. We'll sit together on this old island of ghosts at the edge of the world. We'll stay until we see that there are many layers to the sky. We'll wait for the light. It will return. I have to believe it will. I have lived for centuries. I have seen light after light after light after light after light. Do you think she will like the loch? Do you think she will like the chill, peaty water and the silver flicker of fish? Do you think she will like the way the snow falls soft on the mirrored black glass? Do you think she will like, still, the monster? You don't have to wait with me. I'll stay a while yet, for the world to turn, for the sky to burn, for the light to return.
Thank you, Kirsty, for such a wonderful, poetic rendition of that story. It was absolutely beautiful. I mean, what a treat we've had. We have had 3 incredible stories. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to Niall Morjani, to Sana Khan, and to Kirsty Logan for their contributions to this session. And just before we finish, we have got time for one more story. I'm going to be giving you an interpretation of the Scottish tale from the borders, Tam Lin. Once upon a time, for that is how many good stories begin, there was a young woman who was loved by everybody she encountered. Her black eyes sparkled like the stars on the darkest night. The gold jewelry on her ebony skin gleamed brightly, and when she threaded shells and beads into her braided hair, she was so beautiful that in certain times she would have been worshipped as a goddess, or she would have been burnt at the stake as a witch. But her greatest attribute was her joy, which they say was so rich that it spilled from the windows of Newark Castle and it tumbled into the icy waters of the Yarrow below. And they say that any creature who encountered this happiness was immediately enamored with the world. But the girl was headstrong, and despite the many warnings of the wicked and wayward creatures that lived beneath the forest floor, she decided to venture into Carterhaugh Woods behind her home, and that is where her life changed forever. He was youthful, just like she was, with a force of spirit that she had never encountered before. And when he spoke, his words filled her soul. He caressed her face, and she felt the world opening up beneath her feet. She loved him. He was a beautiful man who had approached her from through the trees. His soft black hair, his green eyes and skin the color of gold in such sharp contrast to her own. His words were not of this world, and yet she understood every single thing that he said. The encounter was brief but intense, and a few months later she discovered the consequences of their liaison. She was with child. This realization reawakened old memories inside her. She thought of the sweetness of his lips, the firmness of his hands. She remembered the thrill of their intertwined bodies and the immense sadness that filled her as he stood helpless, unable to follow her home, for she had discovered that he was a human soul that had been stolen into the world of the spirits, and he was now bound to them. As the child moved within her, she decided to return to the forest and find him. His words somehow carried over from his world, and he told her that she should return to the forest at the stroke of midnight, for it was Midsummer's Eve. She did as he asked, but the forest was dark, yellow, blinking eyes gazing at her, and she was filled with fear. But finally, she arrived at the little stone well where they had first encountered, and she waited. She called his name, and even though she didn't see him, his voice filled her ears. "When you see the jinns," he said, "do not let them see you. When you see the fairies, do not let them hear you. When you see the army of mortals, you will find me there. Grab hold of me, and no matter what happens, do not let go. Only when you see the burning flames, throw it into the well, and the curse will be lifted." She promised to do as he asked. Just then, an army of red-eyed jinns floated towards her, their skin giving off a pale blue glow. She stood transfixed as she watched their lips chanting silently in unison, strange and magical sounds. But she remembered his words, and she crouched down as low as she could, and they passed by, and they did not see her. She waited, and sure enough, not long after, a cohort of fairy soldiers marched through the woods, strong, sturdy, upright on magnificent golden stallions. Their pale, translucent skin, their golden hair shimmered under the moonlight. She watched them, beautiful, and they stared at her with sapphire blue eyes, but she held her breath, she hardly dared move, and they passed by. They didn't hear her. Then arrived the once mortals, a bewildering assortment of individuals, some with eyes as black as her own and others as blue as the ocean. She saw hair soft as silk, others with curls that bounced wild and free, and some with sculptured styles that dazzled. She looked on as their skin, some was as white as the sands of East Lothian, others as brown as the old oak tree, and some as black as the darkest night. They were beautiful as they glided through the trees. But she sought him out, and she found him. She waited until just as he was passing by, and then she leapt out. She seized him and she held on as tightly as she could. And it was then that an old voice rang out through the trees, "Who has taken my soldier?" The young woman looked around, and there in front of her she saw the most beautiful woman that she had ever seen. But hers was a cold, hard, ancient beauty. She recognized her at once. The eternal mother of souls, queen of the fairies, the black-eyed dancer, a slither of power in female form etched from the shadows. The young woman quivered. "I have taken him." Eyes glinted beneath the shimmering veil, and the old voice rang out rumbling like thunder. "Let him go." But the young woman whispered, "No." There was a moment of silence, and then she felt her lover's body begin to transform. Fur sprouted out, a thick mane grew out of his neck. She felt great claws sinking into her skin, piercing it, and she watched as bright red droplets of blood fell to the floor. She cried out in pain as she saw herself looking into the face of a lion, hot, bloody, meaty breath blowing into her face. She was terrified, but she did not let go. Then, without warning, the fur dropped to the ground. His body began to change. He became longer, harder, leaner. He began to wrap himself around her body and began to crush and squeeze her. She saw herself looking into yellow, slitted eyes and a flickering tongue. And as the serpent crushed her lungs until she could hardly breathe, she feared for the child inside her, but still she held on, and she did not let go. Then suddenly, she was holding onto an iron rod. It began to glow red hot, and her hands blistered and bled. The stench of burning flesh filled the air, and she cried out with pain as tears flowed down her face. But still, she held on with every ounce of strength that she possessed, when suddenly it turned into a burning branch, and when she saw the flames, she threw it into the well. There was a violent thrashing in the water, and then stillness. The young woman ventured over and she peered into the well, and she saw her lover's hand emerge, grip the side of the stone well, and he pulled himself out. An awful voice filled the forest air. "Soldier, get back in line." But the curse had been lifted, and the two of them fled that little stone well right back to Newark Castle, where it is said they lived for many, many happy years, their children and their grandchildren too. It is a place of incredible beauty, and the forest holds many surprises. But should you ever wish to visit the ruins of their happy home, be prudent if you walk through Carterhaugh Woods, because if you venture in deep enough, you may eventually come to a little stone well, and it is said that the Ancient One still walks through the woods, seeking out fresh, new souls. So there we have it. We've come to the end of our storytelling session for today, but we hope that you enjoyed the stories as much as we enjoyed sharing them with you. A huge thank you for joining us. And if you did love those stories, please do pass them on, because stories love to be told.